Welcome friends to the special lecture which is the symbolic expression, and as an interpreter we have Manisha Sharma in the studio with us, and today's theme for discussion is socially conscious cinema, and the films which we will largely discuss will be of Prakash Jha and some of the other filmmakers as well, but largely we'll talk about the films which have been made by Prakash Jha and how the socially conscious cinema tries to in a way capture the reality, in that sense that what all issues which are there in the society, they are being talked about, they are being in a way communicated to the audience in a manner that a lot of entertainment is also being provided, but at the same time these kinds of concerns, they are also being raised at that point of time. So when we talk about the films which were made by Prakash Jha, he began his career with Hip Hip Hooray, and thereafter one of the important films in the context of the milestones which he made was Damul. Thereafter he was also associated with other films. For example, Ganga Jal was one of his most popular films, and thereafter he made Aparhan, Rajniti, Satyagrah and some other films as well. But what we have seen in his cinema is that he is always able to make some kind of a comment on the kind of a situation, largely in the context of raising the social consciousness, and it is also in a way connected with the concerns of the political situation of the times, and he is also able to make some kind of a political comment on the situation as well. In the context of the readings, one can refer to the films of Prakash Jha, which is one of the most important thing in the context of understanding his cinema. Then Gulzar et al. Encyclopedia of Hindi Cinema, and then www.wikipedia.com. So these are some of the references, apart from others, which one can refer in regard to the films which have been made by Prakash Jha. And when we tend to understand cinema or films, that how they are able, whether they are able to bring some kind of a change in the society, and the kind of challenges which are there in the society from the economic and social point of view. Then also we have to see the kind of political dimensions which are there, which are existing in the society, and the issues of corruption, exploitation, oppression, bureaucratic red tape, the kind of women's position in the society, and how in a way the kind of rebellion against the system which is also there. So all these things, basically films are able to communicate in some way, and they are playing that kind of a role where films are trying to communicate these kinds of issues which are there in the society. And when film is dealing with these kinds of issues, for example corruption, or for that matter oppression, then we find that they are when they are communicated to the audience, then some kind of a consciousness of the audience is also being raised. And one of the other important issues is with regard to the kind of position of the women in the society, and the kind of changes which can be brought about with regard to improving the women's position in the society. And we also see that over a period of time, how one can in a way rebel against the system has also been communicated in the films. If we see the films of the 70s and thereafter, we are also able to relate to the image of Amitabh Bachchan as an angry young man. And later also a number of films which are challenging the system, they have also been made in the 21st century as well. And in that context, when we try to understand cinema, that how cinema is able to create some kind of an impact on the society, and how it is trying to communicate reality to the people through the cultural motives which are there. And we also see that how it is also very intrinsically linked to the issue of culture, fashion and the identity, and all these things are also very important from the academic point of view, that how the question of culture and the question of identity have time and again been discussed in academic institutions as well as in academic forum as well. And we find that how cinema is linked to the society in a way that many times it is also being argued that cinema is the reflection of society, cinema is a mirror of society. So in that way also we try to understand films and try to in a way see meanings in them. So when we talk about films, we also find that not only dialogues in the films but also symbols which are there in the films, they also communicate a lot of things. And when you talk about these kinds of symbols, they are definitely culture specific, that they are related to a kind of culture which is there. And when we talk about Prakash Jha and the kind of cinema which has been made by him, that how his cinema is known for the political and socio-political films as well. And when we tend to understand his cinema in that particular milieu, where we have seen that a number of films which have been made by him, they are based in Bihar, and they are trying to communicate not only the regional culture of that place, but they are also trying to communicate the specificities of that particular culture as well. So we find that how Prakash Jha has been able to use the mainstream actors in the issue-based films, and we find that the coming of the mainstream actors in all these issue-based films have also popularized the kind of cinema, and he has now been also acting in many of the films recently, and thereafter he has also acted in a film called Sant Ki Aankh, and thereafter he has also acted in other films as well. So we find that he is largely a director who has made a number of socially and socio-politically conscious cinema, but at the same time he has also produced a number of films, as well as now he is acting also, he is on the screen that way, and he has been able to create that kind of a mark in terms of the films which have been made by him. And as I told you in the beginning as well, that he started his career with Hip Hip Hooray, and that was in 1984, in which he in a way narrated the story of a computer engineer played by Raj Kiran, who was waiting to start his first job, and how he takes up a temporary job as a sports instructor in a school at Ranchi. And there he meets an apathetic school principal and also has some kind of a relationship with the teacher played by Deepti Naval. And through his efforts he is able to finally lead the football team to victory as well. So such kind of a picturization, especially beginning and showing the concern and the scenery of or the background of a place which is far away from Bombay, that is situating his films in Bihar. And thereafter he also made a film called Damol, dealing with the issue of the bonded labor, which highlights the caste politics in that region and the subjugation of the lower caste through the bonded labor. And he focuses on issues of large migration of underprivileged villagers of Bihar and to the affluent states like Punjab to explore the options of livelihood. So it was also some kind of a thing which was seen after the Green Revolution in 1968, and we find that so many people from Bihar, they went to Punjab to work in the fields in Punjab because of the Green Revolution. We find that Punjab and certain regions of Haryana, they became very prosperous, and some other regions like Bihar, etc., they largely remained poor in that sense, because Green Revolution agriculture was not practiced in these areas. So it also in a way tries to show the issue of lopsided development of the various regions, and how the Green Revolution which was there in the 1960s, though it was considered to be as some sort of a success, that it was able to increase the food grains production, but at the same time we also see that it also posed certain challenges in the social and the ecological sphere, that how the people, those who went to the Green Revolution practicing areas like Punjab, how they were being maltreated at the hands of the employers, and how they were being exploited in those regions. So it in a way communicates the tale of inequality and poverty which was there at that point of time. And we find that this film also received the National Film Award for the Best Feature Film in 1984, and also the Filmfare Critics Award for the Best Film in 1985. So we find that the kind of cinema which was made by him was comparatively meaningful in nature. It was trying to deal with the issues and concerns of those times, which were relevant from the point of view of raising the consciousness of the masses. Thereafter, we also see that he made a film called Mrityudand in 1997, in which Madhuri Dixit, Shabana Azmi and Om Puri, all of them, they acted, in which the issue of women's status in society was being talked about. It was in a way a commentary on the social and the gender injustice which we find in the society, and it also straddles the boundary between the art film and the commercial film, in that sense that it had the popular actors working in this particular film. And the film starts with the ghastly portrayal of a mob killing of two defenseless women, and how this thing was orchestrated by the vested interests which were there. So we also see that how the power players in the village, they later evade the administrative quality inquiries into this atrocity which was committed on the women. And we find that this incident also sets the tone for much of the rest of the film. And in the film we find that how the contractor Tirpat Singh, played by Mohan Joshi, who is a powerful, dishonest and a brutal man, oppresses the poor people and especially women in terms of their freedom. And we find that the Madhuri Dixit played the role of the female protagonist in this film, and her husband in the film also becomes influenced by Tirpat. And we find that he spirals down a dark road of domestic abuse, alcoholism and self-centeredness, and that alienates his wife and tears apart the whole family, despite her best efforts to fight this kind of a situation. So we find that how Dikshit's long and hard and bloody struggle to confront and defeat the forces of oppression and male domination in the village, where the role of the women and her efforts, they are also being shown, that how they are ready to take on the people who are trying to oppress them in this kind of a situation. Apart from that, we all also find that how he made a very popular film, Gangajal, in 2003 with Ajay Devgan, Gracie Singh and Mukesh Tiwari, and it relates to the blinding incident at Bhagalpur. It was depicting the political and the bureaucratic corruption which is there. And if we see the plot and the story, we find that it was based in Bihar, and the police was under the control of a local don played by Mohan Joshi, and his son played by Yashpal Sharma. So we find that again this particular story was also based in Bihar, the place to which he himself belonged. So he was trying to project the culture of that particular place and the kind of happenings which happened or took place in this particular place as well. That the incident concerning the blinding which took place in Bhagalpur was being shown in this particular film as well. So we find that how one of the police officers played by Mukesh Tiwari in the film, he pierces the eyes of the accused and pouring the acid, which is locally referred to as Gangajal, on their eyes. So this incident raised a hue and cry in the local media as well, which accuses the police of vigilant justice as well, that how policemen, they were the ones who were ready to provide justice in an instant by becoming the vigilant. And we find that this film again was not only popular from the box office point of view, but it also received the National Film Award for the best film on other social issues. Then thereafter we find that how Prakash Jha made a film on kidnapping which was titled as Aparan with Ajay Devgan and Nana Patekar, and this film communicates the story of a complex relationship and clashing ideologies between a father and a son, which is set in the backdrop of kidnapping industry in Bihar. because Aparhan, as the title communicates, that it concerns with kidnapping. And when we talk about this kind of film, that how this film was when it was being made, it was talking about the kind of conflicting ideologies between the father and the son, played by Ajay Devgan and Mohan Agashe. And if you see the plot of the film, where we find that Ajay Devgan is being shown as an unemployed, honest graduate and who dreams of joining the police force, and his father Mohan Agashe is a highly principled and a moralistic man. So this kind of a juxtaposition, or this kind of an opposition which is being shown in terms of the conflicting ideologies, is very evident in the film. And it also shows the concerns of the unemployed people, that how unemployed people, when they are not able to get the jobs, and how they can also become astray, because an honest graduate who was in a way willing to join the police service, and who also had those kinds of marks by which he could get into the services, but he was not able to get into the services because of the dishonest policies and the dishonest practices which were being followed by the recruitment agencies. And because of this kind of dishonest policies of the recruitment agencies, honest people, they are not able to get some kind of a job with which they can be satisfied. So the film not only talks about the kind of conflicting ideas which are there in that particular age of a father and a son, but it also raises the kind of concerns which are there in the society as well, because the film is trying to show that how a social activist who was also a Gandhian at that point of a time, who was an ex-school teacher. So the kind of values which he had, and the kind of values which he had imparted to his son. And despite those values, the son is not very happy in that situation, because he realizes that the times when the ideals existed has passed, and now the situation has reached to such a stage where there is a lot of corruption in the society, and the people, those who are involving in the corruption, they are the ones, those who are reaping all the benefits of that system. So we find that in the film itself there is a rift between the father and the son, and we find that how Ajay Devgan, he joins also the kidnapping industry in the film. And he also has to face challenges by the people, those who are the settled players in this particular field. And as I told you, that the issue of unemployment is basically discussed in this particular film. And when we talk about this kind of a concern, we also find that how the issue of criminalization of the politics is also being talked about. And this criminalization of politics has not only been talked about in this film, but there are a number of films which have been made which are talking about these kinds of concern, that how the politics has been getting criminalized, and how criminals are getting into politics time and again. So this film basically talks about the nexus between the police, the politicians, and the criminals as well, and how what steps could be taken in that sense that this kind of a criminalization could be avoided. Another film which he made was Rajniti, Politics, which was made in 2010, as you can see on the screen as well. And this particular film basically draws the parallels to the epic Mahabharata, where the shades of Krishna, played by Nana Patekar, Arjun, played by Ranbir Kapoor, Bhim, played by Arjun Rampal, Duryodhan, played by Manoj Vajpayee, and Karn, played by Ajay Devgan, can be seen in the terms of the characters which have been portrayed. And this film was also dealing with the political corruption of those times, and it also had certain controversies regarding the similarities between the real life people and the characters in the film as well. So we find that how in a modern context this film was being set, and how the politics is an important concern in today's times, and it also raises the concerns of the political corruption as well. and we find that the people, those who are playing characters in this film, for example, Ranbir Kapoor, he says that politics is a game that brings out the inner devil. And Nikhat Kazmi, who was writing for Times of India, she said that the film basically anchors its plot in the two classic tales, the Mahabharata and the Godfather, to create an engrossing diatribe on India's political system, where democracy may prevail but not in its purest form. So what we basically see in this particular film is that the issues that this issue of corruption and this issue of criminalization of politics, which is there, it had to be tackled in a way, and how the Indian political system has also adapted to this kind of a situation where corruption is breeding, and how it has to bring about that kind of a change in the society. So that has also been in a way communicated in the film as well. Thereafter, we also see that he made a film called Arakshan in 2011, in which Amitabh Bachchan, Saif Ali Khan and Deepika Padukone played the central characters, and the film deals with the policy of the caste-based reservations in Indian government jobs and educational institutions. And it also exposes the travails of India's education system, in which the politico-capitalist nexus is also being exposed. So it in a way is also attacking the capitalist coaching institutions. So we find that the kind of films which have been made by Prakash Jha, they have been time and again talking about the kind of issues which are there in the society. They are dealing with the issues which are concerning the society in the framework that he is trying to negate the kind of negative forces which are there, whether it is in the framework of the corruption or whether it is in the framework of the capitalist and the politico nexus, which he talks about in the film Arakshan. And this privatization of education has also been talked about time and again, that how this culture of capitalist coaching institutions is some kind of a threat to the children, and how so many children, they are committing suicides also because these capitalist coaching institutions are charging so much fees from them, and at the same time they are also creating such kind of a pressure on the students as well. So we will further talk about the kind of films which have been made by Prakash Jha in our next discussion. Till then, thank you very much.